Tangent calling. Tangent calling. Tangent calling. Tangent calling.
Hi, and welcome to Tangent Calling, the podcast where we go off on weekly tangents, mostly based on the books we publish. We cover pretty much everything, from music to street art to literature to cinema to the supernatural. My name is Sol, and today I'm joined by Richard. Is there anything else we talk about, Richard?
You sometimes go foraging for mildly psychedelic tea, Sol, but I think you go foraging for the ingredients to mildly psychedelic tea. Because you can't forage tea, in my opinion.
No, you can forage tea. We had a discussion about this with
had a long
Andy Hamilton.
discussion.
Yeah, and he said he's the expert because I don't go foraging for it. He does, and he says it's tea.
Yeah.
So
we'll get to that. That will happen.
That will happen. We'll do an.
That will happen. It will happen. Yeah, it's a good reason
talking.
It's a very good reason to subscribe to the podcast. So, a very good reason.
Yes. So
please.
Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications if you want us to, spring up on your screen whenever we drop a video. It really helps us out and it lets us keep making these videos, which is great.
And where's Dave? Where's our guest?
I don't know. Where is Dave?
Dave Mcdonald.
So today we're talking to Dave Mcdonald, who is the owner.
He's a landlord, owner, promoter, bottle washer, barman, and his partner is his business partner Sophie, as well at the Thunderbolt, one of Bristol's leading venues. A place very close to my heart because it's down the bottom of my road, down the bottom of Thunderbolt steps, and also I promoted some spoken word evenings there. For about 5 or 6 years, if not longer.
Right, is that where you did what was it, word of mouth? Word of mouth
and blah blah blah. We had some great nights there, yeah, and it's a great venue, one of Bristol's great venues, and so Dave's done a single, a fundraising single with the venue owners from the Louisiana, the Exchange, and the Fleece. In order to raise money to help them through COVID, because they're all suffering terribly, the small venues, through not being able to open through COVID. So the venues can't even open as pubs, really. So whereas the pubs at least had a brief respite, their capacity has been cut so much. But Dave's going to talk to us about this if and when he shows up. What happens if he doesn't show up? What are we going to do, Sol?
Can we find someone that looks like him?
No one looks like Dave Mcdonald. You'll realise that when you see him. He's done a video. It's a great video. We're going to have to cut some of this, aren't we, if Dave doesn't turn up? Or maybe we'll just keep it in. Who knows?
Maybe you know what? Maybe I should play the music video now. So if we get the music video, which we should, I'm going to show you this through computer magic right now.
Oh, let's give it a go. It didn't work earlier, but let's try it again. Go on. Do it.
No. That's me cutting. So I'm going to cut.
Oh, was it? Oh, sorry.
You know that place, played there many times. Live music is the scene, bats on every night. Everyone has a tale to tell, so we need to save the venues. No COVID can close culture down. It has threatened their existence in every town. back, need to keep safe. We must stand together and keep the faith. Once they've gone, they're gone forever. So we need to save our venues, 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 save our venues. Give me some space, save our venues. Give me a little space, save our venues. Talking about moonshot, baby, save our venues. Bottom goes to the breaker, honey, save our venues. Save our venues, 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 save our venues. We need to do it now.
Yeah, I've known Dave for a long time. So and he didn't turn up then when I first met him. When I first interviewed him, he was late for the first interview I did. He used to be in a band called Fear of Darkness many years ago, goth band from Frampton Cotterell.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. There was another goth band from Frampton Cotterell, or a goth musician, singer from Frampton Cotterell. Who do you think that might be?
Wayne Hussey.
Wayne Hussey. He's
Yeah.
it's Frampton. Well, Dave will know because he went to school with him. If he turns up,
Oh, brilliant. I fucking love The Mission.
do you?
Yeah.
Why do
Big
you like the
time.
Mission? What is it? I don't dislike the Mission, but I've never really sort of found them a band I feel that strongly about.
I really like 80s goth music.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what the Cult? Do you like the Cult as well?
Not some. Well, I haven't really listened to them, to be honest. But The Cure, The Mission.
How can you like 80s goth music and not listen to the Cult? They
Well,
were 80s goth music. They
Well,
were 80s goth music.
I
Fields
just
of
haven't got
Nephilim?
around to it. Huh?
The Fields of Nephilim, they were goth, weren't they? They're the ones who covered themselves in flour.
Really? That's pretty goth.
Yeah, it's very goth, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I saw them, I must have seen them because I saw them cover themselves in flour at the Locarno, I think. It's not quite as exciting as you think it would be, covering yourself in flour. In fact, it's not very exciting at all, really. Just look very white.
It's like a bakery gone mad.
It is like a bakery gone mad. I could tell you a story about flour if you like.
You may as well.
I may as well while I wait for Dave to turn up.
Yeah.
We'll have to cut this, Sol. We can't be talking about flour. We're talking about rock and roll from Bristol's leading venue promoter who hasn't bloody turned up yet. I used to work in a factory in Pennywell Road in Easton, on that bit between Old Market and Easton. It was opposite a pub that you called the Great Engineer, I think it was, which is now flats. And this factory made machines which packed flour and butter. So so basically they had a machine shop, and then they made the machines. They exported them to, when I was working there, to Russia and to Uganda.
3 hours later.
And I looked down, and there was Ron looking like someone out the fields of Nephilim, walking round and round in its circle, muttering to himself, and all these blokes shouting at me. And the foreman was there. He said, "You get down here now."
75 years later.
They had to close the factory for 2 or 3 days to clean it because they had all this sort of finely tuned machinery just full of flour. It wasn't my fault.
Give me a minute, I'm almost there.
Here's Dave. He's arrived.
Sorry about that. Oh my God.
You're in your pajamas.
Well, this is a lockdown, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? This is venue owner. Oh, there we go. Is that all right, Richard?
That's perfect, Dave. Are they your pajamas? Are those your PJs? No, it's not. It's just a stripy shirt, isn't it?
Yeah, they could be, though, couldn't they?
So, Dave, what do you make of 2020 so far?
We've got to put it in perspective. Obviously, there's some quite scary moments in America. The Black Lives Matter movement has been phenomenally. It has been a really positive out of this year, and that's affected our culture the way a lot of ways. And obviously I wasn't there, my daughter was there, but when the Edward Colston statue was pulled down, then it's had Bristol's had a big impact on the world on those issues, and as in some ways it has always done. But so there's been some really positive things to come out of some very negative situations, because obviously America is very divided. Not to say Britain isn't, but we're America has been quite frightening this year.
Yeah. But of course, one of the positive things to come out of the bad situation is you're single, which is great. And so tell us. So just to put it in context, you've done a fundraising single with 3 other venue owners. That's Chris from the Fleece and Migueli from Louisiana. And who is it from the Exchange, Dave? Who's a guitarist from the Exchange?
It's Matt Oatridge.
Oh, of course, yeah. So tell us a bit about that. Tell us a little bit about. Well, let's start at the beginning. How did you do it? Because it's a great. We'll be showing the video later on, putting a link to the video. But how did you actually do it in isolation?
Okay, so I mean, first of all, I came up with the idea. I mean, the idea of bringing the venues together was just. I met with Mig Scalacci from the Louisiana on a number of subjects, but one of them was the crowdfunder, and we were talking about how to maybe re-energize it, and anyway, so I said, look, would you be up for playing on a single if I put together a single? It had occurred to me that might be quite a good idea, because Chris Sharp from the Fleece had mentioned in a couple of posts that the venues had to stick together. He didn't mention any projects to do that. He just said, look, we've got to stand together now. And it did have an impact on me. It was quite a bit of an inspiration. So so I spoke to Miggy, had a beer with Miggy, and I said, look, Chris is a bass player. Wouldn't it be good to get everybody together, sort of 4 band members? I've got a feeling Matt Oatridge at the Exchange plays guitar. And
the Bristol Post described you as a supergroup, Dave. So I know that you I first met you when you were you started out in Fear of Darkness, but you left Fear of Darkness and you were, I think it was Across the Great Divide was your band at the time.
Oh, well, that was acoustic.
Yeah. But tell us a little bit about the others. So so Chris at the Fleece. What's his background? Who's he play for?
So Chris at the Fleece has been bass player for the Blue Aeroplanes for a number of years.
Yeah.
And he's a good bass player. He used to. I mean, I don't know whether he wants me to tell you this, but he used to have a little covers act in Switzerland. He's incredible. He used to go to Switzerland and do tours. Anyway, but he's a great musician. He's done a great job at the Fleece, and he's somebody who tries to bring people together. And anyway. And I went back to him and said, look, would you be up for it? Yes, he was. Matt Oatridge said, I play guitar in a punk band. I said, what? You kidding?
Which band did he play for? Which band did Matt play for?
No, Matt's not any names, just a punk band, just a mates and like that. So I said,
Mig at the Louisiana.
Miggy was signed to a major at one point. He was.
Yeah, was it? Which band was that? Was it
Santa Cruz, wasn't it? And
Santa Cruz.
Rorschach he was in.
He started off with Rorschach. Well, he started off in a band called the Coltrane's, I think, when he was at Bristol Grammar School. Because I remember interviewing him, and I remember he showed me. It was in the White Bear on St Michael's Hill, and he showed me that they're all about 16, having sort of underage pints. But you know all about that, landlord, and he scratched Smiths into his forearm with his compass at school, and he showed it me. And I thought, what a strange thing to do.
Yeah.
No, but he had a good career as a drummer, didn't he? Then he joined Rorschach, and then it was a Santa Cruz. And yeah.
It's funny with the family. I mean, with Mary and Giovanni, his mum and dad, Funny enough, my first band in Bristol was we wrote our own stuff, but did a few covers. When I was 16, 17, I used to play in a band called 5 to 5, and that was a sort of new wave power pop band, very poppy. And we used to play the Lock and Weir. So I knew Mick's mum and dad from there, but I mean, I didn't know Mick then. But
Oh, they had the Lock and Weir, did they? I didn't know that.
they had the Lock and Weir. It was a great little venue.
Yeah, I remember it.
When they were running it, it was blooming brilliant. Yeah, and that was the first gig, so I owe a lot to them. Because Fear of Darkness probably would not have evolved into something decent because we were able to play. They were, in a sense, a lot of the nurturing that they had, from a distance. I took on, so a lot of young bands do evolve into different things, and I've always realised that, and that happens here a lot.
So, Dave, going back to the single a bit, who wrote it? Did you write it?
I wrote it with my daughter. Basically,
That's Ella, is it?
Ella, yeah. My daughter writes some new lyrics to it. I thought it'd be better from getting her perspective on it, and some great production. I literally it was written it was like the old school in the 60s where they used to write in the studio, literally. Rowan, Red Hot producer Rowan Stevenson, who's a sound engineer here at the Thunderbolt, and he's doing a lot of good bands. He helped me all along the way, so I'd come up with a verse. It was quite, quite organic, really. It wasn't. And we wanted to get the theme right.
So how did you do the video? You filmed it at the 4 different venues and then edited it, did you? Or...
Yeah. So it's important, right? So the video. I wanted to do a great big stage outside the Thunderbolt, and the 2 people who were helping me, Paul Matthews, who's a great filmmaker, and Tom Thomas, they work as a team. They also work at Bananas. They do some really good research work there. But anyway, Paul Matthews had the idea of, he wanted to film each individual in their venue, to show them in their venue and show the empty venue, to make a point about that.
Yeah.
And of course, that was the main point of it. But of course, that helped social distancing. I never even took, but that was the main aim of that, to show the empty venues in each place. So
it's a great single. We're going to be playing a video, and you can find it on Bandcamp. You can support it because the point of it is it's raising money to help the venues through this difficult time. So I'm sure that that our loyal listeners will support that, Dave, and it's fun as well. It's a real.
It's really catchy.
Great. Yeah,
it sticks in your head, and so then
that
loop is just
feedback. We've had loads of feedback how catchy it is and how many people like it. I mean, I'd hoped people liked it, but would like it, and they have. It's.
So, Dave, we thought, apart from giving a big plug for the single, we wanted to talk to you about your time as a promoter, because you're one of the city's leading promoters and have been for many years. So you've done us a top 5 of gigs you put on at the Thunderbolt, and so let's go through that. So I know that you make the point there's so many to choose from, but you've come up with this top 5. So starting at number 5, we start off with the 45s. Now, I think I was at this gig many years ago, but you tell us about it. Who are the 45s?
So the 45s are, well, in fact, they're out of the 5 acts I chose. They're mainly a covers band, but they do it in their own way. So they do renditions of sort of late 50s, early 60s stone stuff. And it's phenomenally powerful. It's a 3-piece power trio. But Bobby Anderson is the son of Carlene Anderson, the singer who worked with Paul Weller and had many hits herself, and the grandson of Bobby Bird, who was the right-hand man of James Brown, would you believe? Bobby Anderson, I have to say, of the 45s, it's like having an international act in your pub who lives just down the road. He's a lovely lad, really friendly, great with people, always got an inspirational thing to say, but fantastic singer, fantastic guitar player. Yes, it is a cross between, you know, like James Brown and sort of Paul Weller guitar. But and Des the drummer's great. He's a fantastic drummer, and of course Jimmy's the bass player. He's a local lad, but they've played all over the world now. And they started playing in Bristol pubs, but now they've just been on tour with Idols. That's how good Idols think of them. They played all the big gigs with Idols in the last year, just before the lockdown.
They're favourites of yours, aren't they?
What's that?
The Idols ever played a Thunderbolt?
They've been to the Thunderbolt a number of times. They probably have in different bands, but not as Idols.
So number 4, again, I've seen this band at the Thunderbolt, and an unusual choice, I thought, Dave. Phantom Limb. Tell us a little bit about Phantom Limb. What's the name what's the name of the singer in Phantom Limb? I couldn't remember.
Yola.
Yola, that's right. Yolanda Carter.
Goes by the name of Yola now. And
Yeah.
She's massive in America now. I mean, Nashville and New York. She's often on television.
Yeah.
She's been on Jules Holland show quite a few times. She's doing very well in the States. But Phantom Limb was sort of a country soul act who played a lot of gigs, built up a massive following. But when Yolanda used to sing here, the back bar glass used to rattle. It was unbelievable. What a voice. Stuart's guitar, local lad, South Bristol boy Stuart on guitar is fantastic. He works with Daddy G now on soundtracks and stuff. And fantastic guitar by Danny Moore. Fantastic keyboards by Danny Moore.
Oh, I've seen Danny Moore. Yeah, he's a great keyboard player, isn't he? Yeah.
And he lived down the road from us, so he literally used to live 400 meters down the road. So it was always good to get a gig with them. He was a bit, you know, but absolute splendid act. Should have gone much further, but and the last gig they did here was. We all started singing after the gig. You know, there's only a few of us left, and they got the acoustic out, and we did some songs by ourselves. It was a lovely moment.
Oh, brilliant!
It was a fantastic gig, and all their gigs were. But it's about what happens in between sometimes that makes an event, doesn't it?
And yes, absolutely, yeah. And number 3, well, I guess this is a great choice, I think, because. What a great band, and still going as well. Or were still going. I don't know if they still are still going, but the Pretty Things.
Yeah, Phil May actually passed away this year.
Of course he did, yeah.
So it's very sad to hear. Phil May's the singer, a legend, an absolute legend. And if you told me when I started a venue or started in the music business that I'd one day promote Pretty Things, I wouldn't have believed it. How it came about was by absolute luck. But they played 3 gigs here and absolutely brilliant. Phil May and Dick Taylor. Dick Taylor was, of course, a founder member of the Rolling Stones with Mick Jagger and Brian Jones. Absolute brilliant people. They loved Farrow's Fish and Chip Shops on the Wells Road. They'd always go up there and have all 5 of them. They'd all go up there and have Farrow's Fish and Chips.
Oh well, you can't beat a Farrow's. So you know the Pretty Things, Soul, because you're a musician. Have they made any impact on you over the years?
I'm not familiar with them. I'll be honest. I actually don't know any of these bands.
Oh.
Sadly, I know it's my own fault.
The Pretty Things. It's different. The Pretty Things are interesting, aren't they? Because they really were one of the great cult acts of the 60s, weren't they? I mean, what sort of impact did they have, do you think, Dave?
Massive impact, because they were the first punk rock band, really, in lots of ways.
You really think so?
Well, they was not a garage rock band, weren't they? But in the early, so their sound when they came on, their sound was very R&B, punk, souped up rock and roll, and they got and they were the sort of original punks, really. But their sound evolved like other 60s bands, and they were responsible for SF Sorrow, which was the first concept album. A lot of people say that Pete Townsend and the Who got his idea about doing Tommy from SF Sorrow. So But massive influence. But I love the rocking stuff. Loved it.
What's a good song to check out for people like myself who don't know them?
Don't Bring Me Down. Love it. Don't Bring Me
What a
Down.
great song. What a
Don't
great
Bring
song
Me
that
Down.
is.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Midnight Tonight, man. That's crackers. That's some crackers. That's some real crackers.
Yeah. And number two, you've gone completely the other way. Now, I obviously am familiar with the person, but I didn't see this at the at the Bolt. But Carlene Carter, what an incredible thing to have Carlene Carter at the Thunderbolt.
A promoter, right, rang me up a week after this gig, right, and said, "How the hell did you get Carlene Carter?"
For anyone who doesn't know, Carlene Carter is actually Johnny Cash's daughter, and one of the just a huge name in the Nashville scene, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. I mean, she was also the partner of Nick Lowe, of course. She married Nick Lowe.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And because Nick Lowe was producing Johnny Cash's albums at the time, and absolutely. But a promoter rang me up and said, "I offered Carlene 20 grand to play, and she still wouldn't play our festival." But what it was she wanted to come over and play small venues, the best 5 small venues in the country, and we were chosen. It wasn't a contact; it was just simply that their manager rang me up personally, talked to me, and in some ways they wanted it to be a low-key tour because they wanted to come back with big, some big shows, which they did eventually, I think. But it was amazing. And she came off stage. She said, "I love the sound of your room, David. I love the sound of your room." What can I say, really? She was lovely. She was really nice, but obviously an absolute legend.
It really is a great atmosphere in the Thunderbolt. I've had some just really fun times at the Thunderbolt with just watching friends bands and stuff, but just the atmosphere. I don't know if it's the walls and the courtyard and everything. It's a really great place. It's a really great venue. I think it's got a great atmosphere to it.
Thanks, Sol. Yeah, I mean it has, and it's when I was looking for a venue, I have to be honest, I always love small venues. We could have got something bigger. It would have been more profitable to get something bigger, but I just love. I mean, as soon as I walked in to the Turnpike, as it was then, I was just fell in love really with the size of the room and what we could do with it. It has evolved into something very special, really. The size is just magical because sometimes you can get over 150 in there. It's tight, but you can get 20 or 30.
It's tight.
20 or 30 in there, still nice on a Wednesday night, which is good.
That's what the magic is, though, because it has a kind of party vibe to it, because it's small and close. So it's not spacious and grand. It's got like a party, homely atmosphere to it. It's like a Christmas party every single gig. It's great.
We used to have the Tangent Books Christmas parties, Sol.
Oh, no way.
Remember those, Dave? The Christmas curry. It was a challenge, wasn't it? It started off in the daytime, so we'd go and get pissed in the daytime at the Thunderbolt, and it was curry and sherry trifle pudding. It was a test of character. If you could have your curry and your sherry trifle and 6 pints of gem or Bristol Beer Factory ale or whatever, then you had a good time at the Thunderbolt. But we'll do it again, Dave. We'll do it again. I haven't done it for a few years, but I'd love to come back and do it again.
Oh yeah,
it just got too big. There were so many people coming.
It work. I mean, as you know, Sol, I could have. I mean, to be fair, different generations look at our venue very differently. So, because obviously I've got in my list in this big list, the top 5 list, I could have put another 25 bands in there that are up and coming, young and up and coming, because we do so many, the younger bands, these were special occasions, I think.
Talking about which, Dave, I used to put on nights at the Thunderbolt with Bert L. Martin, the word of mouth nights. We did it about 5 years, I think, and we enjoyed it. So when I got to your number 1, I was expecting to see me and Bert L. there at number 1 with our word of mouth spoken word performance poetry nights. Instead of which, who have you gone for?
DJ Derek and Don Letts.
Can't believe it.
On the same bill.
I was there, mate. It was great. It was a fantastic night. What a great night that was. Yeah, that was a while ago now, but I remember it. I remember it well. That was great.
Yeah, it was a great night.
And of course, Derek used to have a soft spot for you in the Thunderbolt, didn't he? Because he chose to play the Thunderbolt quite regularly.
Yeah, he did. I mean, we always treated him really well. He recognised that because some venues didn't treat him very well. However, he always loved playing our place, and he loved the people there. Once he played it first time round, he just absolutely loved it from there on. And we did 4 years, so we did about 20, I think, about 20 shows, and most of them were sold out by the end of the night, or and it made a real difference to this area. I think it was what the Thunderbolt does well. We brought top acts into South Bristol and to the Totterdown area with it, and most of the people who were coming were local residents, so they used to absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, that's a good point, Dave. Because the Thunderbolt's made a huge impact, not just locally in Bristol and nationally, but also very locally to Totterdown and Knoll and Brislington. Having a great venue in South Bristol is unusual, because there haven't been that many over the years in South Bristol. It's more Gloucester Road, Clifton, city centre, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I think the people of South Bristol are very, very grateful for what you and Sophie have done over the years at the Thunderbolt. And there's been some great moments there, and we did ask you to choose one special moment there, and you come up with a really interesting one. Tell us what your special moment is that you've chosen.
Well, I was lucky to be there because Sophie, my co-owner, does all the parties. We've been really successful in getting some great gigs. But sustainability, to keep venues going, even over COVID has been a tricky one. But even before that, over the last 10 years, it's a real challenge. So our parties have been really important. But it's not really, what people love, a bit like what Sol was saying about the room, and people love having a party at the Thunderbolt, and particularly local residents. So a lot of people from Totterdown, Brislington, Knoll, Windmill Hill have parties at the Thunderbolt, and it happened that somebody on Summer Hill, the road next to us, at the top of the road, wanted a party, and lo and behold, Beth Gibbons from Portishead was a good friend of hers, and they're all in fancy dress, and then suddenly they get Beth Gibbons to get up on stage with a backing track, and she does a fantastic live version of Glory Box, would you believe?
Oh, that I can feel that just the way you describe it. Then I can imagine that, Dave. It must have been such a special moment, and what a great track, and what a great band, and what a great voice in a venue like the Thunderbolt. That must have been so special.
It was unbelievable, and I was just lucky I was there at the time. I think I must have got tipped off, but because I don't normally work parties, absolutely brought the house down. It was about 100 people, over 100 people, packed it was, and everybody was absolutely over the moon. It was just a fantastic, it's just brought the house down, really.
So, Sol, have you got any? You're talking to a man who's steeped in Bristol and national music. So, you got any questions for Dave before we say goodbye?
I have loads more questions for Dave.
Yet,
how much longer have we got?
You got 10 minutes or so.
So Richard said that you grew up with Wayne Hussey of The Mission. I'm quite a big. I quite like The Mission. Well, I really like The Mission, and and I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
Well, it's a weird one. I come from South Gloucestershire, so it used to be called North Avon, I've always seen myself as a Bristolian, to be honest. But I came from South Gloucester. I went to the Riders High School. My sister, I've got 5 sisters and brothers above me, but I've got a middle sister, Sally, who unfortunately passed away in 2010. But she went to the Ridings. Anyway, But one of my first memories, in fact, it's my original memory as a child. The first time I ever saw a band, my sister Sally, I was about 5 or 6, took me over to our neighbour's garage to watch a band. And Kev Jarvis was in the band, but his mate, Wayne Hussey, was playing guitar. And that was in Frampton. Would you believe?
And then you put him on at the Bolt, didn't you?
So, yeah, I mean, basically, I've also been a fan of the Mission. I knew he came from Bristol. I knew he went to the Ridings as well. Yeah, I got him to play, and he remembered my sister and remembered Kev Jarvis and playing, and he played the show and loved the Thunderbolt. Played there 3 times, Wayne. Absolutely loved it, because the Thunderbolt, when we bought it, we had to reinstate a lot of original features, because it's originally it's grade-2 listed, but the style of the building is Victorian Gothic, so that's why you see the chandelier and it's all a bit Victorian Gothic. And of course, Wayne Hussey, our Mission fans, absolutely loved it. It was a spiritual home.
Exactly, yeah. And Richard said you were in a goth band yourself back in the day.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was a goth band. I think they went goth after I left. But yeah, I mean, it was the haircuts. Just look, crazy, man. Very 80s. But yeah, we were in Fear of Darkness. We're a great band. We worked so hard. We do over 150 gigs a year. Absolutely worked so hard. We developed a following across the country. We got Radio 1 airplay. But yeah, so yeah, we enjoyed ourselves. But that's where I got most of my experience in the music business. And then it wasn't until, and then I had a band called, which Richard touched on earlier, the Wishing Storm. I did a lot of touring, went on tour with Ghost Dance, who were a goth band. But we were sort of, I don't know what we were really, indie band really. But yeah, so I did my first gig. I promoted when I was quite young, I was 15, 16, to do some charity events. I'd done it really early. But I didn't do it again until I put on a charity gig at the Victoria Rooms with the Blue Aeroplanes for Bristol Cyrenians. And after that, I did it as a benefit gig for Bristol Cyrenians, but I sort of got the hook. I was a bit hooked. That was in 1996 or 7. And we did that show, and we had K-Passa support, some great bands. We raised about £2,000-3,000. And then I was living in Totterdown in Hill Avenue, and I went into the Cumberland pub that's now called the Star and Dove pub, and I went upstairs to practice my own guitar. And I thought, I don't want to practice anymore. I'd just love to do gigs here. I love this room. And it was there that I put together Coup d'etat, which was mixing American foreign policy history, artwork and stuff with indie music. And I got to meet loads of people there. John Parrish, Polly Harvey used to go in there, and all the indie musicians, and that was really successful. We had Hugh Cornwall do an acoustic set there from the Stranglers, so that was really good. And then,
so did Polly Harvey actually play there, Dave? I know she lived just up the road.
No, popped in a few times with John.
Yeah.
But a lot of people did, and yeah, and then that was sort of a good test trial, really, for putting on live music in South Bristol and in Totterdown. So the next obvious step, I was working at Barton Hill Settlement doing community work. I'd sort of done quite a lot of years of it, and I just thought I got to do something different. And that's when the Turnpike, we bought the venue, and we made it into the Thunderbolt, and it's been pretty good ever since. It's tough because I think continual 40 or 50 tax rises on alcohol from 2004 2005 up to 2012 were a bit tricky for the wet industry, for the alcohol industry. So it's always been a bit tricky, but we've kept going.
And are there any bands or artists that you are looking forward to putting on or hope to put on once all of this, lockdown is over?
Yeah, well, there's some great bands that have, been doing well. Pompadour, a band who started here, they've just signed a management contract with Crosstown Concerts. They're sort of, well, Toby, the drummer, has been playing here since he was 14. They're going places. They're excellent. So look out for Pompadour. They're really, really good. Indie pop. As I say, the Crosstown Concerts do the summer series gigs at Lloyd's Bank, so they do pretty well. So that's one good band. I'm really hoping they do, kick on. Do you know what I mean?
So,
But
Dave, I think one of the great things that Dave has done over in recent years is every Christmas Eve he's put together his own band. What's the name of the band you put together, Dave? I've forgotten.
Oh, Disorderlies.
Disorderly, yeah, it's great. You do covers.
Disorderly.
It's brilliant, and it's a great, and local people mainly come down for a couple of hours and have a great time on Christmas Eve. And it's not going to happen sadly this year, but I reckon we should do it in the summer, Dave. I reckon you should do it in the summer when we get through the worst of this. We should do that Christmas gig.
Yeah, we should. I mean,
because it's such a great night. I mean, it's a great afternoon.
We used to do, because I worked in homelessness, and I have to say, people have asked me, how pubs are going to survive. How are you going to survive? I started to say to them now, well, look, I work with people for many years on the street, experiencing the worst kind of extreme poverty and hardship, and somehow they try and survive, and they try and find creative ways to survive. I hope this Christmas, this government, the government continues its support for rough sleepers, because if it doesn't, then there's going to be a lot of hardship for people. But I take a bit into the issue, so I always think, well, if you can, I learned a lot of people, as well as supporting people into housing. I learned how people deal with things differently, and so I hope to use that to keep going on, with the venue, etc. And Christmas is a really important thing to us. So I used to work at the day centre at St Jude's on Christmas Day, and I sort of took that into the Thunderbolt. So the Thunderbolt worked on Christmas Day. We opened on Christmas Day. I had a great feeling, but I couldn't do it anymore. I'd done it for a number of years. So we created the Christmas Eve event, and the Christmas Eve event, my brother-in-law said, look, can't we get a band together? So I did, and we put a band together with Andy Bright and Charlie Carr, my sound engineer, and we opened from 4 till 8 instead of opening all kind of hours on Christmas Eve. And turned out we only expected 50 people to turn up. 250 people turned up to the first one.
Oh, that's great, Dave. Look, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to play the video. We're going to put up all the links to where people can do it. So go out and support the venues. Download the single from Bandcamp. It's a great tune. It really is a good tune, and great vocal performance, Dave. I enjoyed the performance, yeah. And of course, and also I'd say the Bristol Post described you as a super group, and actually, you're a good band. You've got some really good experience in there, haven't you?
Yeah. What was the musical influence behind the song?
Well, there's always a little bit of Clash in everything I do, but a little bit of I don't know, early Stones in it, early Beatles, but a bit of Clash and a bit of power pop. Do you know what I mean? It's just what I've always done, really. And I put a lot of passion into it, and but 3 chords, 3 chords, 4 chords, no more.
Oh, that's brilliant, Dave. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll stop unless there's anything else, Sol, that you want to ask. I'll stop the recording now, and we'll say our.
I'll just say the crowd. Good. If I could just do a quote about the crowdfunder.
Yeah, go on then. Yeah.
Oh, and Oh, just to remind everybody, we still got the Thunderbolt crowdfunder. You know, any donations would be welcomed.